Yo, what's happening, everybody? It's your boy Chef Bay here. I am trying to get used to live streaming. Your boy tried to get a little done up and try to get ready to make sure I look presentable for the people. We're going to talk about some topics here today. You know, food shortages. There's food shortages going around. The prices of food is going up. Why is that? Is it because COVID? Is it because supply and demand? Is it a drought? What is it? You know, it could be a multifaceted problem, or and it could be designed by designed on purpose, or it could be both. Um, a problem that's being compounded by somebody that's trying to exacerbate it on a design level, if that makes any kind of sense. So um, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna talk. I say we, but we're gonna talk more about. Said it again. Either way, you get it. We're gonna talk more about what's going on here. So Kim Iverson came out with a video here recently, talking about farmers dumping their milk. I'm gonna play that clip first, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about it.
Paying through the nose at the pump. Egg prices are skyrocketing, milk prices. Now, here's where things get weird, right? Because some of us want to know why in the world are these food prices so high. Now, here is a video from Canada. This is not the United States, but you can probably deduce that something very similar is happening here in America as well. Could this be why our milk prices are 20, 30, 40% higher than normal? Watch this.
Hey guys, we're here at Hugonville's Farm in Southern Ontario. We milk about 260 cows. Right now during the winter months, you milk quite a bit more milk because the feed is very consistent. And if you do a good job, you will produce quite a bit of milk. So right now we're over our quota. It's regulated by the government and by the DFO. But the problem is what they don't understand is millions of people look at this milk running away because it's the end of the month. So I have to dump. I dump 30,000 liters of milk. It breaks my heart. I will show you. By the way, this here Canadian milk, it's $7 a liter. When I go for my haircut, people say, "Wow, $7, Jerry, for a little bit of milk." I say, "Well, you have to go higher up." Because we have no say anymore as a dairy farmer on our own farm because they make us dump it. And no matter how we stand up, so this time I'm going public. I want the people to see the pain that us growers have of 365 days. As a little boy, we grew up on a dairy farm, came from Europe, work, and here we are. This is what's happening.
I mean, unbelievable. Maybe this is why food prices are up. It's all about supply and demand, right? I mean, if you have too much milk, well, then you have to lower the cost. Oh, gee, what would it be like if we only paid $1 for milk? Instead, we're paying through the nose at the pump. Egg price.
You all couldn't hear me that whole time. Damn. Damn, 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 damn. Yep, you all couldn't hear me that whole time. Okay. So your boy is back new on the so what do I want to do? Nobody's watching yet, so I'm gonna actually start this over. For those who might be watching the playback, you're gonna notice that I was talking, and obviously I didn't have my audio up. So we're gonna go back through. So we're just gonna start from the top. Okay. I apologize. I'm gonna actually close that out, and we're gonna play back the Kim Iverson video. Okay, we're gonna start back with that of the farmers, and then we'll talk back about it.
Paying through the nose. Paying through the nose at the pump. Egg prices are skyrocketing. Milk prices. Now, here's where things get weird, right? Because some of us want to know, why in the world are these food prices so high? Now, here is a video from Canada. This is not the United States, but you can probably deduce that something very similar is happening here in America as well. Could this be why our milk prices are 20, 30, 40% higher than normal? Watch this.
Hey guys, we're here at Give and Go's Farm in southern Ontario. We milk about 260 cows. Right now during the winter months, you milk quite a bit more milk because the feed is very consistent. And as you do a good job, you will produce quite a bit of milk. So right now we're over our quota. It's regulated by the government and by the DFO. But the problem is what they don't understand is millions of people look at this milk running away because it's the end of the month. So I have to dump 30,000 liters of milk. It breaks my heart. I will show you. By the way, this here, Canadian milk, it's $7 a liter. When I go for my haircut, people say, wow, $7, Jerry, for a little bit of milk. I say, well, you have to go higher up because we have no say anymore as a dairy farmer on our own farm because they make us dump it. And no matter how we stand up, so this time I'm going public. I want the people to see the pain that us growers have of 365 days. As a little boy, we grew up on a dairy farm, came from Europe, work, and here we are. This is what's happening.
I mean, unbelievable. Maybe this is why food prices are up. It's all about supply and demand, right? I mean, if you have too much milk, well, then you have to lower the cost. Oh, gee, what would it be like if we only paid $1 for milk? Instead, we're paying $7. So this could be one of the reasons why the government controlling that supply and demand, but they're not really controlling it in our favor potentially. Not sure.
I'm not sure either, or maybe I am sure. Maybe that's why I'm doing this broadcast today, this show today. I'm sorry. So, back again, I was saying a whole lot and my audio was not on. Now I see the audio is going so you all can hear me. So, I'm going to make this brief and then I'm going to get into the actual topic. So, she was talking about the food shortages. We're talking about what's causing the food shortages. Is it a compounding problem of COVID and weak economy, inflation, blah, 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 buzzwords, basically? Or is it a more designed or planned occurrence that's happening currently in the country? As you can see, there's farmers dumping milk, but there's farmers that do other things. Farmers that kill cows or gotta dump some other stuff. We've dumped their crops. A lot of you all have seen some form of it. We also have been seeing some of the factories that have been caught on fire out of nowhere all the time and stuff like that. And a lot of us in America, we don't really question. We are starting to question, but some of us are still in a stagnant mind state to where even though we question it, we just question it a little bit and we just still living our daily lives. And I understand that because it's almost like, who am I? What am I, little old Chef Bay, gonna do? But spreading the word is one thing that we can do. And things like this need to be told. It's already sad enough that you got farmers that are out there that will even that are getting rid of their crops and their meats and their milks and just dumping it in the trash. And so you have to ask questions. Anytime you watch anything, you should be asking questions. There's always questions to be asked because most people only give you part of the story or only giving you part of the story and not always because that's the only reason why, but maybe they only had a certain amount of time to get the information out. Or maybe they're trying to hold something as far as information from you about the topic that you know that they know will change your mind about it. So, like me personally, first time I saw that with Kim Iverson, it made me think, are you all being paid for what you're dumping out there? I mean, come on, think about it. A lot of people would be in an uproar that are farmers if they have to get rid of product that's gonna give them money. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, if the milk was being thrown out and all this other stuff being thrown out, personally, I think that they would be putting it on the black market to make up for the loss. So then you got to wonder, is the government or somebody paying them, taxpayers, money for the things that they're losing? I mean, likely so. That's what makes sense, is they're getting paid money by the government for what they dump out in order to control the supply of food and other things out there in the economy. And it may sound weird, sinister. Why would they do that? Whatever, whatever. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today to prove not only they would do that, they have done it. Have they done it against their own people? Yes. Likely so a lot right now. But they've definitely done it against other countries. John Pilger and Martin Luther King talked about this, and I did a video about this quite some time ago that we're going to go over to kind of give you and show you more information about the farm subsidies, the farm bill that's probably full of different subsidies, or subsidies is basically money paid out to the farmers for a particular reason. In many cases, a lot of these subsidies are paid out for farmers not to farm, not to bring certain things to the market. And you might ask, why would they pay a farmer free money? Just give you free money after you done spent all this time putting this stuff together. You ain't got to sell it. Just dump it in the ground. We'll give you a check. Then you got to ask questions. Why would they do that? Well, there's perfectly good reasons why they want to do it. At least good to them, not good for us or other people. So there was a program called the Zapp program. We're going to talk more about it, but let me move myself over all. We're going to talk more about it, but the Zapp program is basically a program that is utilized by the United States government in order to intimidate or entice change within other countries based upon imports, mostly imports of food or exports. Our exports, their imports. So what does that mean? If you have a country and you see something in that country that you want and you want to get it at the cheapest price possible, but that country's like, hell no, y'all niggas need to give me X amount and then you can have this. Let's go with oil. They want to get the oil for $50 a barrel and they say, hell no, we'll give it to you for $80 a barrel. Okay? Well, that sounds all fine and dandy until the government's like, no, we're going to figure out a way to get it for this $40 a barrel. Now, sometimes we know how they'll go in and start wars, but things that they try to do before that is so-called diplomacy or sanctions. So the Zapp program is a program used to stop the imports or exports to a country in order to hurt the economic state of that country in order to entice change. So if you want to change the regime, maybe you don't like the particular presidents that's there right now. What you might do is you'll stop all the imports or exports to that country, all their imports that are coming from the United States, as well as its allies. And all of a sudden it'll put a hurting on that country. I mean, you got to think about it. You can't just grow lettuce tomorrow. If somebody's saying, hey, I'm buying all this lettuce from you, and they're like, hey, I'm not selling you no more lettuce as of right now. Well, now you got to plant lettuce. You got to cultivate the land. You got to get it ready. You got to wait for it to harvest. It's going to be a long time before you can actually get that. So it's going to seem like a horrible thing going on in your country. It's going to look like empty shelves. It's going to look like people starving. And then what do? They send these white journalists over to these areas to act like they're there to try to talk about the state of the country. But you know the state of the country. It was fucked up. But before you came, and you know why it was likely fucked up. Some of these journalists act like they don't know this stuff, man. But whenever a little old Chef Bay can figure it out and they can't figure it out, then I don't know why the hell they doing journalism, is why I say it. So I've been talking quite a bit. I'm going to let Martin go ahead and really give us some one of his speeches, one of my favorite underground speeches from him of all time. And he's talking about the government subsidies paid to the farmers to not farm. And he coincides that with reparations, because if y'all gonna sit here and pay all these farmers all this bread, where's our bread? And I ain't talking about wheat.
The very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Now, this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Woo! I get goosebumps, and I remember when I get chills when I see this speech, this underground amazement of Martin Luther King. He's done figured it out. He's done learned. Wait a minute. Y'all giving these people land for free. You giving them the land, and then you giving them loans for equipment to mechanize the farm. Then you send county agents to the houses of these people, giving them in little groups together and teach them how to use all this shit that you just gave them. And then you basically setting them all up with all this stuff, basically to where they can start growing and doing their good duty to make sure they're doing their part for the United States, right? But then at the end, you decide to tell them, wait a minute, we don't want you to farm. You know what? A third of that crop, don't even farm that third. We'll give you a check for it. You're getting paid for it, but don't even worry about it. What pissed off Martin Luther King so much is because we're out here as foundational black Americans working hard as fuck towards the goals and our dreams, and we're getting pushback after pushback after pushback from the United States government and all kind of white folks, right? And then on top of that, everybody's looking at us like we're the ones lazy. We're the ones asking for stuff. We're the ones that don't deserve anything, whatever the case may be. But then y'all get all this shit for free. All this shit just given to you by the government. All this shit that's very, very, very valuable, right? Some of it probably paid by the tax money from the black free people at the time too. So their money was in on that. But you get all this free shit, and then at the same time, they turn around and tell you not to farm, and you sit around and collect a check while you shit on black Americans and tell us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. That's what pissed him off. And he said, you know what, man? After this, we coming down there to get this check. And that right there let me know. He's like, look, no talking, no civil rights, nigga. None of that bullshit. Check. Cut it. All right? And that's what we on. We on that same time. once I saw this long ago, you know, and this is what a lot of people fail to do, is to do the research on these people. Some of our heroes were around during the time of the video age. So you can actually take a look and hear the words directly from their mouths just to see what they meant. And that's very important because so much shit, just like the game Telephone, whenever you play the game Telephone, after you went down the line from 10 people, the whole story is misconstrued. So we're going to continue a little bit further, and we're going to talk about John Pilger and go into the Zapp program and see what he has to say.
Far without bread.
Up to 1974, the U.S. government had paid American farmers $3 billion not to plant millions of acres of cereal crops. This kept the world price inflated, and as a result, the food that was available was beyond the reach of those countries on the Zapp list, like Chile. And
First of all, did you just hear what he said? They paid farmers $3 billion. That's $3 billion. Free tax dollars gone to white folks out of nowhere. Here you go be white. You know, go do your white thing. Niggas didn't get hardly none of that. Niggas is always fighting for shit in the farm bill. Now I'm gonna have to read through that farm bill personally. I've done it once before. I've seen the subsidies in it. That was a long time ago. But I need to read a more updated farm bill to see what kind of debauchery is up in there now. But billions, crazy.
countries like Bangladesh that were considered strategically expendable and had no reserves of hard currency. Hunger, said President Harry Truman, is fostered not by scarcity, but by greed.
Farmers and... As you can tell, that was a young Chef Bay back then. Look at that hair. Oh, my God. I ain't going to let you hear my part right there, man. That's my old commentary. We got new commentary here. Let's go back and look at another clip here within there.
God's own country. The natural bounty that pours from this land is almost too great to comprehend. America controls half of all the world's wheat, 2/3 of all cereal foods, 95% of all soybeans. That's why President Harry Truman called America the breadbasket of the world. And indeed, she has been the most generous in the world. That spirit is now changing in Washington, the Washington of Dr. Henry Kissinger. A member of Dr. Kissinger's staff has said publicly, to give food aid to countries just because they are starving is a pretty weak reason. In every major deal Dr. Kissinger has done in recent years, food has been a decisive factor. For agreeing to détente, Russia got American food. For signing a Middle East peace agreement, Egypt got American food. For prolonging the war in Vietnam, the generals of Saigon got American food, which they sold to buy arms. In the last few years, the world has been much obsessed with the oil weapon. But as the following half hour will show, there is a new, more powerful weapon, food. And this one is lethal. In the breadbasket of the world, the average American eats almost a ton of grain every year. In the hungry world, which is most of humanity, the average person eats less than a fifth of this amount, and that's barely enough to survive. 4 million Americans belong to weight-watching organizations, and in the United States, obesity is now officially listed as a cause of death. In Britain, we don't eat quite as much, but like the Americans, we feed most of our grain to meat-producing animals, grain that would feed some 20 million hungry people. In effect, we choose to feed animals rather than people.
First of all, you saw all the fat folks up in there just gobbling away, just engorging themselves on grains and whatever. And you know, what he just said also on top of that, it's also crazy. Not only are the Americans the most fattest asses out there, okay, as far as eating up too much of the food and as far as the food supply that we actually have here in the United States. But on top of that, we feed our cattle more grains than we even feed ourselves. In fact, we have more grains and food that we can actually feed to the world, but we choose to feed and fatten up cattle and things of that nature in order for us to eat more meat and be even bigger fat asses, so you can have your ribs and your chicken and your burgers and all that. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I'm a sucker for some of that stuff too. You know, I'm mostly vegan, but I dip and dabble sometimes on some meat, and I shouldn't. But it's better to do that than to just be 100%, you know, taking advantage of the system. So basically, this is all bringing up more of the story of about the control of the food supply, the amount of food that we have, the surplus that's available to us, not only as Americans, but as a human race of food on this planet. And they're always talking about food shortages and are we gonna run out of resources for the people? But Elon Musk just recently, and he said it many times, but he just came out with another tweet that just said something about how you can fit all the people on the planet damn near in like New York City or some shit. You'll have to look it up. I can't remember the exact distance rate. It might have been New York State or something. But basically, everybody can fit in one place. You know what I'm saying? If we really wanted to. And that shows the vast amounts of area that we have available. Now, I didn't need Elon Musk to tell me this. I already knew. If you travel through the United States, anywhere, you see vast amounts of land just gated off. Like, first of all, I start thinking just like people don't think, who put these gates up? You know what I mean? This is a lot of gates. I've been traveling for the last goddamn 30 hours, and I've seen gated ass fucking areas, but you don't see crops right behind there like they're protecting crops. But what that means is not only is there a lot of space for people to be able to inhabit, lots of land to be able to use to grow food and grow resources, right? But let them tell it the world is running short, you know what I mean? And we need less people. Let's start killing off and dealing something with the people instead of dealing with the actual problem or actually getting to a solution of how to feed us all. Y'all playing games, and it ain't even chess. You playing a fucked up ass game of checkers, a fucked up rigged game of doofus checkers.
People starve to death for a number of reasons. The least understood reason is the denial of food for motives of politics and profit. For example, last April, in a federal court in New Orleans, 2 of the largest American food companies were found guilty of shipping deliberately short-weighted grain to poor countries. Grain which had been paid for in precious hard currency.
Companies were sending out low-weight grains to countries who were really in need, and they gave them the cash for it, the correct amount. So while people are trying to play your fucking game the correct way and do things by the book, y'all don't even give them what they pay for? And look what kind.
and had earned the companies a fat profit of $1.75 million. The companies were given the maximum fine of just $500,000.
They earned $1.25 million, and they got a fine of $500,000. So they almost $1 million up, 750 up, 1.25. No, I'm sorry, 50 million or 500,000 up. They still up.
And these are only some of 65 criminal indictments outstanding against American food companies. Of course, starving countries can buy American grain if they can afford it. But since 1971, the American Secretary of Agriculture, Dr. Earl Butz, has evolved a policy to guarantee high food prices in order to please the powerful farmers' lobby. Under this policy, the price of American grain can be kept artificially high in world markets, American farmers can prosper, and the food companies can speculate. And Dr. Butz can have what he calls agri-power. And while many people have died, Secretary of Agriculture Butz has refused to recognize any international agreement to hold back the price of food.
I'm not very sympathetic with the food needs of a nation where their governments and their leaders are constantly demeaning the United States, are aligning themselves with the Soviets.
I don't care too much about these people who are constantly talking about the United States in a negative light. If they said something bad about the United States, fuck them. Take all their motherfucking food away. Like that's the response. We don't like the Americans like that. No food, nigga. No more food. Say it again, you don't like me. It's crazy.
Are condemning us for being in.
One, it's crazy. Two, it's not the real reason. Obviously, it's not because they say bad things about the United States. It's not because they're plotting against the United States. Anybody's going to say bad things about the United States if the United States did bad things to them. But regardless of that, you know, like, obviously there's other reasons. So he's admitting to doing it, but he ain't giving you the reasons why. He's giving you propaganda for the reasons why, saying, well, they talk bad about us, and, you know, I don't really know what it means.
International imperialists and that kind of thing. I don't think we are. I think our record clearly demonstrates we're not.
So did you listen to that?
In the world today, we have two major power types. We have petropower and agri-power. With the zooming population of the world that's going to increase 80% in the next 25 years, food is bound to move to the front burner. It's going to be one of the most important things we face. How do
Oh my gosh.
we feed 80% more people than we have today?
How do we feed 80% more people than we have today? We might have to stop dumping this shit in the ground.
That's what I mean by agri-power. I think we in the United States have agri-power.
And he said that's what he means by agri-power, as if the power is used to be able to thwart future famines or some shit, which you're causing famines. You're causing famines on purpose, but your reasoning why you're doing this is to stop famine, to have agricultural power.
Or we have the world's major
Agriculture power to fuck with people, not agriculture power to save the world. Which that would make more sense, right? If you think the world is starving and you can supply them and they actually paying you for the shit and you give them a low amount. So not only are you not playing fair, but then you have the ability to really do a good job to help the world and have a good conscience as a country and as some leadership. And instead, you use it for nefarious reasons like you do.
major breadbasket. We are the world's major source of feed grains and food grains that move in international channels. Last year, over half the grains that moved in international trade originated from the United States. We have that agri-power right here.
This is
Basically admitted to the shit. We got the power. We got all the grains and, you know, all that. Yeah, well, that's us. We doing it. You know what I'm saying? Big popping. big wheat popping. You know what I'm saying? You need some? I don't know what to tell you.
The Center of Concern, a respected Washington organization which monitors U.S. food policy. Peter Henrio is a director.
If I have something that you need, I have a certain power over you. The United States and Canada, our northern neighbor, presently control some 80% of the food that is in international markets.
80%. And when you know this because you have the statistics on it, it's crazy. But I will say this. Other countries need to do better. You shouldn't have somebody like us controlling 80% of your food supply. In today's time, there's enough information out there to show you how to grow any goddamn crop where you're at, with or without shitty land. You can do hydroponics. There's other ways, whether it's hydroponics, something ponics, multiple ways to be able to grow, even if you don't have the best amount of soil. And we're gonna have to start taking better, advantage of the knowledge and power that we have here as human beings. It took Fidel Castro quite some time to learn about hydroponics and start to have a lot of hydroponic farms growing around to try to help with the food shortages that were brought about with the sanctions from the United States long ago. So, it's one of those things. I get it. Not everybody can just know how to do everything in the world, but when you have a whole country full of people, that's where the education of the people is pertinent. Because when you have a big landmass and a lot of natural resources, there's ways to get what you need and get it done and be independent. Now, you may not be able to get everything. There's always going to be some kind of imports, exports. Some shit won't grow in certain areas. Some shit's only found in a certain part of the countries or the world, whatever. So I understand that. But we have to get ourselves to a point where countries have independence in pertinent needs for the people of the country. You should have water, you should have grains, you should have fruits, you should have, a lot of different things. And really, when you have fruits and all that stuff, you can make ethanol. A lot of that stuff can be used for gas and fuels and shit like that. So there's so much that you can get. And then there's many countries that you can try to get in contact with besides the United States and its allies to be able to find the other things that you might need. You should not put yourself in a needed position with a country like this.
We're the breadbasket of the world in many, many ways. And that means that we have power. That means that things that we want to see done in the world, we have a good, strong arguing point when we say we have food, you need food, we have certain things we'd like to see done. Will you do them?
Politically done, of course.
Politically done.
Yes. Well, now, how give us some examples of that. How is this terrific power of American food used for political aims?
I think one of the clearest things that we've had in recent years, and something that came home as quite a shock to people in the United States, was the way the United States in the early part of the 70s, so 71, 72, 73, 74, how the food that we were distributing to a hungry world actually was being used for political purposes. We have a piece of legislation in this country called Public Law 480, PL 480. And under it, we basically share with the rest of the world food.
Let's just do a little Google search. PL 480. Legislation. Public Law 480, administered at the time by the Department of State and Agriculture and the International Cooperation Administration, permitted the president to authorize the shipment of surplus commodities to friendly nations either on concessional or grant terms. Ain't that some shit, boy? Right here, government website. It also allowed the federal government to donate stocks to religious and voluntary organizations for use in their overseas humanitarian programs. It's probably some bullshit. Public Law 480 established a broad basis for the United States distribution of foreign food aid, although reduction of agricultural surpluses remain the key objective for the duration of the Eisenhower administration. Eisenhower remained sensitive to the foreign policy implications of a permanent program, as did Department of state officials who expressed concerns that PL 480 would disrupt the export markets of several allies, including Great Britain and Canada. As with his overall efforts to streamline foreign assistance, Kennedy also intended to reinvigorate the Food for Peace program and redirect it away from surplus liquidation. Ooh, surplus liquidation. That's crazy. You know what that means? It's like getting rid of shit. Well, we have a surplus and we're going to liquidate it. We have an over amount of shit and we're going to get rid of it or dump it. Shortly after his inauguration, Kennedy issued Executive Order 10915, which affirmed the foreign policy dimension of PL 480. Kennedy also appointed George McGovern as his Food for Peace Director, a position located within the Executive Office of the President, and tasked him with supervising and coordinating the function of various agencies administering the program. All right, anyways.
Food, but in the early 1970s, it was discovered by the American public that the major amount of food that was being distributed under PL 480 was going to South Vietnam, Cambodia, Chile, and a couple of the Arab oil states.
All which had wars. Vietnam, that was the Vietnam War. Cambodia, MLK was going hard about what they was doing in Cambodia.
Basically, we were using food to shore up, to support, to win the favor of nations that politically were very important to us. I think that this came as something of a shock. For instance, in the fiscal year 1974, the United States distributed some almost 50% of the food that it sells on sort of low interest rates under PL 480 went to Cambodia and Vietnam. Went under situations which, as a matter of fact, were military aid. It was not humanitarian aid. Surely it helped hungry people, but it was not primarily guided for a humanitarian reason, but for a military reason, a political reason, and that's agri-power.
That's agro-power, old Sam Chef Bay. So what he is saying there is, it's crazy. It's crazy. What he's saying there is those countries were receiving that food under PL 480 as if it was, but it was normal military food aid in a country that already, so in order, if you want to dump food, right, you want to get rid of, I'm looking over there, I'm sorry. If you want to get rid of food, right, you've seen that beginning video where the farmers was just dumping the milk into the ground. But another way is to allow to buy it up from them and then ship it on over, call it food aid. You know, really it was food aid. It did go to help some hungry people, but it really went to go influence the country. Hey, look, we got food. Hey, look, we'll give you food if you give us X, Y, and Z, kind of what I told you about in the beginning. But in many cases, you know, it was going towards areas where they already were in war conflicts. So what he's trying to say is in many cases in war conflicts, you're going to already have military aid that comes out, right, to help the people, the citizens in that country, as well as the military, be able to, people can get the food because you're there in the war and you're destroying these people's places and you want to be able to try to help them out while you try to finish your mission, I guess. But basically what he's saying is they were going to do that anyway. That is an obligation anyway. So they're dumping the food off over there It's military aid, but they're saying that they're using it for great reasons and they're helping, but they're only helping because they fucked it up. You went over there and caused the war, so now you helping with the food because you fucked it up by causing the war. But at the same time, you trying to cloak it under, hey, we give all this help to other countries. We're just a great people like that. We just love to give help. Again, we have more than enough land to grow what we need for both people and ourselves. We're the breadbasket of the world back then. And we wonder why those countries are trying to take back and be superpowers of their own, because they don't want to be fucking with a country that has this kind of history for so long. You know, they've seen it, we've seen it, we've all seen it play out. That's why Russia and China are doing what they're doing, and other people are doing what they're doing without going into details. And we're over here denigrating them in our media because obviously they want to do their own thing and stop fucking with us. And I understand the reasons why behind it. So, well, that's the topic for today, y'all. I'm just getting on these live streams, as you can tell. I'm having issues by trying to keep my equipment straight and make sure y'all can hear me and all that stuff. So I do appreciate everybody coming in here. Let me go ahead and straighten myself out here real quick. I do appreciate everybody coming up in here, man, and allowing me to be able to bring some information to you about this. So as you can tell, just to kind of bring it home, is the United States utilizing the Zapp program against its own people? I guess we will only know when the farmers in the United States come out the goddamn closet and start talking. And some of them have. You just got to find the information. You got to find their interviews. A lot of times, these people want to talk, or they are talking, but the mainstream media ain't sending people out there to listen. And when the other people who do send people out there to listen get this story, it's not redistributed or talked about or parroted anywhere else in order to amplify its message. And so that's what we need to do. That's why your boy Chef Bay has even joined the fold. I'm not only here to be some new figure and have everybody follow my ideology and all this other shit. No, not at all. If anything, I want to be able to point out things through facts, data, and statistics. I hate when people say that because they ain't doing nothing but parroting a particular phrase by a particular YouTuber. But what I do is I bring the facts. I bring information. I actually show you videos. I actually show you documents. I actually pull up the websites. I actually question these things. I actually try to find videos that are alternative views from those videos and try to compare those to see everybody's accounts, try to figure out and disseminate what is really going on. Because everybody's got a bias, but not everybody. Some people's, well, I guess you can say everybody. Everybody's got a bias. Some people's bias is they're greedy and they want to get more money. Some people's bias is they just want to fuck all kind of girls. Some people's bias is they want to do good by other people in this world. And that's who I am, and that's who others are. And that's who I believe certain people who do like documentaries, who do independent journalism and things of that nature, those people are the heart of humanity. So, it's your boy Chef Bay. Appreciate you learning with me. Till next time.